So I finally went to throw out the packaging for the multimeter that I bought 2-3 weeks ago.
Okay.
First of all, multimeter?
Multimeter.
I've heard really?
Multimeter.
Oh no, I've been saying it wrong all this time.
Look, there's no shame in that. There's no shame in saying words wrong that you only know from reading.
Multimeter sounds cartoonish for some reason.
Look, is it a biopic or a biopic?
A multimeter sounds like something from Looney Tunes that would say Acme on it, and it's like a ray gun that you point at things and turn them into chickens or something.
Look, I would buy an Acme multimeter. I have a Fluke. My Fluke I love my Fluke.
I looked at Flukes briefly.
Yeah.
I also, here's why it took me like a year to buy a multimeter.
Yeah. Oh, this is shocking. I don't need to know what the answer is going to be, but I know I'm going to be like, oh yeah, you needed it a year ago, and we're like, couldn't decide which one to buy.
No, I didn't need it. That's why. That's ultimately why I didn't buy one. Is because when I bought one a couple weeks ago, it's because I finally actually needed one. But I kept thinking about getting one for like a year. But I kept oscillating between there's like a zillion no-name $10 ones on Amazon.
Uh-huh.
And then there are the Flukes that like freaking start at $300. Well, not quite.
You can get a Fluke for like $120 now, probably.
Yeah, like a cheap Fluke is like a little over $100. But that's the point, It's like, I can get away with this $10 cheapo. No, maybe I should get the really nice one. Like, anyway,
mine was a gift. I did not pay for my Fluke. Somebody gave me the Fluke as a hey, welcome to this new thing gift.
That's a handsome gift.
It was yes, it was a good. I was very excited about it.
Anyway, I settled on a $25-ish one that has been fine.
The big difference is that the $25-ish one, if you hook it up to too much juice, will like explode and stop working, and the Fluke
probably will
just blow a fuse, and you can put a new fuse in. It'll be back to nothing in no time.
But that's why I got the $25
yeah.
one. Because whatever.
Yeah.
The one I got, this is my true passion in life. I got the one that all the user reviews said like, oh, this thing's way better than it should be for this price.
Oh, I love that. That's my favorite category of product.
The inexpensive thing that punches above its weight. Finding that is my greatest joy in life.
It's the Radio Shack indoor outdoor speakers in like 1992.
I mean, honestly, it's the Celeron 300A rule.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. The Celeron 300A is the example of this this phenomenon.
I was a Pentium 300 SL2W8 guy personally, but the 300A is fine too, I guess.
Yeah. Yes. Anything that overclocks. Anyway. Okay. So I was about to throw out the packaging, and then I just happened to glance at this warranty fold out warranty card that it came with.
Very friendly blue.
That I was just going to throw in the trash because whatever. But then I happened to open it. I'm going to quote from it now here. On the front, it just says 1 year warranty, need tech support. Defective? Contact us. On the inside, love it. One more free gift. A, test pen. B, micro cutter. C, headlamp.
What? You're getting a free headlamp with this micrometer?
And then it says like how to get, and it's like choose your favorite gift. Multimeter. Email us, include your Amazon ID, order number, et cetera, like it's some customer retention thing, but free headlamp, man. Can you see this?
That's a free headlamp.
On this web. Like
that's a top strap one though. I don't know about that, but it's a good starter headlamp.
It looks like it's got side and top strap.
Well, yeah, you only need the side is the point. You just do it. It's like but look, this is a starter headlamp. This will get you on your path. And here's my favorite genre of tweets this week have been all the people showing me pictures of situations where it would be nice to have both hands free and have a light that you can aim still. Sure. And there was like a guy that taped his phone to his head.
Yes. I saw that tweet, and whoever you are, that is an amazing photo.
Yeah, it was a very good drag.
I might reply to that person and ask if we can use that photo for the show art.
The list of places that headlamps are useful, like people were talking about walking the dog, people are talking about working on cars, people are talking about like doing plumbing and stuff in their crawl space. Honestly, even plumbing underneath your kitchen sink. Headlamps are incredibly useful.
A coal mine, perhaps?
Look, man.
Throw it out there again.
Look, the liberals have killed coal mining, Brad, once and for all.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, it's all over. There's no more working in the coal mine, going down, working in the coal mine. Something.
Okay.
Got to get.
So you think free headlamp? Like that's the thing?
What were the other options?
What is a test pen?
Let me see the picture.
It's boy, this is really going to play on this terrible webcam.
Oh no, that looks lame. I would not do that.
I should probably see what it
is. It flush cutters? Is the other one?
micro cutter is what they call it. Is that just like a little wire snipper?
That's just that's a pair of like flush snippers. Yeah, you don't.
So, when I saw this free headlamp, the process began anew. I was like, wow, free headlamp. And then I was like, wait, maybe. But then I was like, maybe I should go get the nice headlamp. Should I get the free headlamp?
Look, get this headlamp. If it ends up being what you dreamed and wanted, then perfect. If it doesn't, give it to your special lady friend, and there you go.
Then we'll have two headlamps.
Then you have his and hers headlamps. It's perfect.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Headlamp. Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad. Hello.
How you doing, Brad? You know, Brad, I think
good.
Look, I've been thinking about it. I think we need to rebrand. I think it's important.
Well, this has come up before. What happened? What's changed?
Look, I think we need to. I think past tense is holding us back. I think people are thinking that this is. Yeah, I think people are thinking that this is a project that is in the past and is done and is not ongoing.
It's like one of those limited, like season-long engagements kind of thing. Like.
Yeah, no, I like the idea of exclusivity, but I think it's important that we have a strong look forward for a technology podcast about single topics.
Brad and Will make a tech pod.
Brad and Will are currently making a tech pod.
Are and will continue to make a tech pod.
Have been and will continue to.
Yes, are in the process of.
We might need to workshop this a little bit.
Yeah, let's think this over a little bit.
I looked at the calendar today and I noticed that we've blown past the Ides of March and we're closing in on the end of March. And that can only mean one thing.
Emails?
Yes. Emails come in like a lamb and go out like a lion.
I'm impressed you know exactly what the Ides of March are.
It's March 15th. I took 4 years of Latin in high school.
Aha.
It's probably not March 15th. I probably messed that up and people are going to yell at me in the comments. But, here we are.
Oh. Just act like you knew what you're talking about and keep going.
It's the end of March, which means it's time for emails. If people who sent a missive to techpod@content.town, that's techpod@content.town, then we can turn those questions that they send in into answers. Sometimes it's just comments, I guess, technically. Brad?
Yes.
Hold on. I got to talk about your water cup there.
Why?
Is that a raspberry jam jar?
No,
it's a cup.
It's my girlfriend bought them. There's a name for them. I'm trying to remember what it is. It's like a working glass, I think is what she calls it.
Looks really, I like it a lot. It has a really nice lip.
Let me Google that phrase and see if I've got that right.
It's got like octagonal sides, maybe nonagonal sides with a round top.
We've broken two of them in the last couple months, which sucks because she said she can't get any more for some reason.
It doesn't look
working. Oh, okay. Well, here are some on Williams-Sonoma. I don't know if those are the ones we have. Ooh. They do look, which you can imagine are quite expensive. Maybe that's why why she was mad when they broke.
Oh yeah.
They're very jar-like. Obviously, people can't see this, but it's like a drinking glass that is almost a jar.
Yeah, it looks like.
Also, we have three. If you ever seen me drink what looks like out of like a vase on a stream?
Yeah.
That's these. That came in the set.
That's the tall boy version.
That's like a foot tall version of this thing. So the thing is, they came with a set of lids that fit on these things, so you can use them as drinking glasses or as like kind of storage jars.
I love a storage jar. We've gotten rid of all of our like disposable plasticware and are using glass stuff now. And,
yes.
And like we do
that too.
Mason jars with lids, but also we do we have similar glasses that are like that, but not that size. Ours are way bigger than that and are less useful, I think. So.
Glass, pretty cool, except when it breaks. I've found.
Yeah, these things happen.
That's what is the kitchen version of PEBCAC? Problem exists between glass and throat. No, I can't work this.
Glass
out.
And ground. I don't know. It's gravity is the problem, man.
Yes, that doesn't quite.
Look, when you have an 8-year-old, she's less breaky now, but for a while there was a constant source of destruction, like just entropy. Added to our house everywhere.
Just a few years of buying the cheap glasses.
We just only gave her plastic cups. She was only allowed to handle plastic stuff, so it was fine.
That's probably the way to go. All right. Shall we read these emails?
Let's turn some Q's into A's, Brad.
Okay. First email is from James in Grass Valley, California, which has actually been a little bit of an ongoing thing because he emailed us about 6 weeks ago because he was in the running for getting Starlink, which you want to lay out what Starlink
is?
It's
Elon Musk's low latency, high speed satellite internet service. They run it through SpaceX. It's the idea is you're getting like, it's way better than what we can get in most of rural America in terms of upload and download speeds. And the latency is way better than traditional satellite, which goes to geosynchronous orbit and back. So you're looking at like, 30, 40 millisecond pings, maybe up to 150 on a bad moment, but good coverage. And like, I would say pretty decent DSL like speeds versus cable modem speeds.
That's something.
Yeah.
If you can't get anything else.
I mean,
which
look,
James
compared to what my parents can get at their place, it sounds like a godsend.
Yeah. So yeah, he wrote us like early February saying he was going to get it, and then at the end he was like, "Hey, you know what? Maybe I'll actually get back to you when I've actually used it," which he has now done.
The circle is complete.
Yes, I can deliver his, what is this? A trip report?
Yeah, I'd say this is like a
on the Starlink setup and usage process.
Yeah, how'd it go for him?
Like I said, he's in Grass Valley, which I'm not familiar with, but he does say he was writing in regards to getting some kind of reliable internet out in the country, which has been made exceedingly frustrating where I live in Grass Valley by the fact that a fiber company put in cable a mile down the road, but were unwilling to extend service to my house, which is almost criminal.
Isn't that the story?
Yes. Anyway, he got into the Starlink beta and he has now written us back with some thoughts. So here's the email. Our Starlink kit arrived early on Monday, February 22nd, which was a full day before the projected mailing date, so they get points there for under-promising and over-delivering. The unboxing experience was nice. Every component was nicely arranged, and everything looks good and feels high quality. Actually, who is this branded under? Do you know?
It's SpaceX.
Is it?
I think it's Starlink is its own brand, but it's a SpaceX company.
Oh, it is? Okay. But like no affiliation with Tesla or anything like that.
Not to other than Elon is the person in charge of both of them.
Okay. This some other part of the Musk verse.
Look, the question is Elon Musk a real life Tony Stark or real life Lex Luthor? We're going to find out soon enough.
Yeah. Why not both?
Fair.
Okay. He continues. My only complaint is that the kit only comes with a basic tripod, albeit one well made out of metal. Mounts cost extra, and the pole mount that I need won't be available until April. Okay, here we go. The good. I have internet. I can stream and download stuff. Calls over Wi-Fi work, and calls to 911 get an address tag somehow.
Ooh.
We've actually been able to Zoom without having to rage quit in frustration.
That's kind of a minus in my book, but okay.
Yeah. Having an out, having an excuse for not Zooming.
We just don't have good enough internet to Zoom. You're gonna have to. Let's just use the phone.
Dude, that was so weird when my internet literally went down 10 minutes before the Bombcast started last week. And
what
was
happened?
Just like, nobody's going to believe me when I say this.
Did one of the pigs chew through a wire?
The dog ate my internet. No, they had some kind of DNS failure. Like they were tweeting it. Thankfully, there were tweets on their account.
Okay.
So I was like, look, they don't even know what's going on.
Okay.
It was yes. The cliched last minute catastrophe. Anyway.
Yeah.
My 3-year-old no longer looks sad, pointing at Sesame Street on the tablet and dejectedly saying, "Dad, Cookie Monster is loading forever."
Man, that's a heartbreaker.
Yeah, so that's the good. The bad, he says, other than my personal feelings about Elon and my contributing to the lining of his pockets, which is a discussion for another day. Coverage does occasionally drop, although only a handful of times in the 4 days we've had it, and only for a split second. This email's from a little while ago. But pages don't load and video stops, etc. To be fair, we do have some tree cover, which isn't ideal, but all in all, a mild inconvenience. And then he ran some numbers.
Ooh, I love numbers.
I ran speed test a total of 20 times in the last 4 days. Minimum 32.2 megabits per second, maximum 115.3. That's download.
This is way better than I was expecting.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
This is in the realm of like decent cable, not
that's totally
not good like, DSL.
Before I got fiber, I had 120 megabit down cable. So like that's not that long ago.
Yeah.
Like that's a pretty decent cable. So that's an average of 73, 74 megabits down.
This is over 20 readings at different times of the day, he says. So
yes. His upload ranged from 5.2 up to 21.8 for an average of just under 15. His pings range between, I guess he doesn't say what he was pinging, but 24 milliseconds and 115.
I assume this is a speed test ping to whatever his nearest.
They deliver ping along with the throughput, don't they? That's right. So yeah, that's an average ping to them of 36 milliseconds. That's pretty good.
So I think for the download and upload speeds, this is amazing. Like is where I would put this. Like assuming this holds and assuming they ramp the number of users on this. Like right now, you can't get on the server. Like you can't just sign up. You have to get on a waiting list. And I assume that's because they're adding capacity in terms of more satellites constantly. You know, whenever they have spare launch space or whatever. The ping it's fine for web browsing and stuff like that. Adding 40 milliseconds ping to your game server ping, you know, versus the 5 or 10 you're going to get on cable or fiber or DSL, is probably going to hurt you a little bit in terms of your gaming perf.
This is a real how far we've come moment for me, because when you say 40 milliseconds is going to impact your, like, all I can think about is the early days of playing Quake over a modem.
Oh yeah,
when a ping under 300 was very good.
Well, I mean, just to be clear, the cable companies, Cable Labs rolled out a new spec a few months ago that reduces the cable networks, like the latency cable modem users see on the cable modem network.
Interesting.
So previously that wasn't something they really optimized for, and they're reducing it to under under a millisecond, I think, on most cases.
Whoa. Is that a DOCSIS thing?
It's a DOCSIS thing. Separate? Yeah, it's an add-on to the DOCSIS spec.
Does it need a new modem or no?
Does not need a new modem. It's a software upgrade.
Jeez.
I mean, assuming you're on DOCSIS 3, I assume it's a DOCSIS 3 add. It's probably not something that rolls back to DOCSIS 2 or whatever. But and it's up to the cable companies to implement it. So
of course it is.
Yeah, but my understanding is that some of that stuff is rolling out fast because the Rona has caused an imminent need for that. So they're going fast. Anyway, the upshot is people care about latency now in a way that they never have before, including the ISPs.
Fair, but I don't know. To me, still, if you're under 100 milliseconds, like, you're doing pretty good for most games.
I was going to say, if you're playing, like, unless you're playing fighting games or unless you're a really good shooter player, which you're probably not because you lived in the middle of nowhere and haven't had good internet before, you're fine.
Jeez, that's harsh.
Well, no, it's nothing. You gotta stretch those muscles, man.
Did you see the stuff going on around the federal definition of what broadband is a month or two ago?
No.
I don't know if it went one direction or the other. I forget which. It was either from the FCC to Congress or vice versa. Maybe it was Congress writing a letter to the FCC.
It might have been Congress writing the letter to the FCC. Because remember, they rolled that back during the Trump presidency. Because Obama had said it has to be 20 megabits or something. And then...
Yeah, so this was way beyond that. I should have Googled this before I brought it up. Federal definition of broadband...
does it have upload requirements or is it just download?
No, it does. So
Obama thing only had download, I think, was the problem.
Okay, yes, it was 4 senators. Oh, this was very recent. It was like 3 weeks ago. There's 4 senators writing to the FCC. I guess the current policy from 2015 is that broadband, quote unquote, is 25 megabits down and 3 megabits up.
Yeah,
which is it's just absurd.
That's not enough.
They specifically in this letter say, because they're talking about the pandemic in here and like just the need for internet in general right now. They explicitly say upload speeds far greater than 3 megabits per second are particularly critical. This article does not. Let me see if I can pull up the actual letter here. Okay. Our goal for, right. This is like pretty respectable. Our goal for new deployment should be symmetrical speeds of 100 megabits per second.
I think that's appropriate. Yeah.
Like they're saying you should have to hit that. Cause I mean, in perpetuity, that's going to be enough for like good, clean video conferencing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And streaming video. Like that's the thing. That's the use case most people need covered that they don't have currently. Mm-hmm. So like above that is kind of gravy to me.
Well, and the thing that so from personal experience, talking to other parents where people have a kid or two, and then both parents are on Zooms during the day. If you're on the base Comcast offering, that's like 5 or 10 megabits up, you're going to max out Zoom with 2 or 3 Zoom calls. You're going to max out your upstream with 2 or 3 Zoom calls. And as a result, the kids get kicked off or the parents get kicked off or you have to turn off your camera or something like that. It's not great.
Yeah.
This sounds good. Like this is much better than I was expecting in terms of download. Props to Elon. This is cool.
He says overall he's really happy with it. Is this Is Starlink the one that uses like a zillion tiny satellites as opposed to like a few big ones?
Yeah, so it's a zillion tiny satellites in low Earth orbit. The astronomers got really pissed off at the beginning because they were making streaks across their long duration photos. They've started coding the satellites so that they're not reflective. But I don't know how much that has changed, and I don't know what the current state of the astronomy world is. But like having rural internet access that's actually usable and good, it seems especially important right now. So like this is maybe there's some good with the bad or bad with the good. I don't know, but I'm thanks to James for sending in the report. And Grass Valley, so people know, is like on the east side of the Sierras, the west side of the Sierras by Yosemite, pretty north of Sacramento, even with Lake Tahoe, just west of Lake Tahoe.
Okay, pretty rural.
Rural. Not like next. East Valley rural, but close.
Okay. Okay, next email. Here's one from David. In your all-encompassing and absolute list of PC building pros, cable specs came up. When personal computers came out, TVs were monitors, but then a switch away from TVs to real monitors occurred. What led to this shift, and what led us back to TVs and monitors once again sharing ports? So he's talking about video connectors there. We talked about on the podcast how great it is these days that your video card can plug straight into a TV with HDMI.
Yeah.
And the TV can just be a monitor in a pinch. So is this more of a European perspective? Like my impression is that early computers in Europe plugged into TVs really frequently and not so much in the US. Is that accurate? Like I didn't have firsthand experience with a lot of that stuff back then.
So a lot of the early computers like Commodore 64s and TI-94As and all of that kind of like early 80s generation, definitely, with the exception of I think the Apple II and maybe the Amiga couldn't use a TV. I can't remember. I didn't have a lot of experience with most of those other than the Commodore and the TI. But yeah, you could plug those into TVs. They were kind of like in between game consoles and computers, right? They had keyboards. You could type programs into them, stuff like that. But you could, and they sold monitors. I mean, there was definitely a TI monitor available. We had them at school, but for the most part, people just plugged them into their TVs. It was
my
easier.
God. You just reminded me. I bought a Commodore monitor in college because I didn't have a TV and I needed something to play games on. And they were supposedly quite good for that.
Wow.
And the Postal Service fucking destroyed it.
Oh, boy.
I never got to use it. It showed up completely broken. That's such a bummer because those things were supposed to be like very good for games at that time.
Well, so I think in the beginning it was a matter of expediency, right? Like the resolutions weren't very high for the computers that they supported. So, you know, what happened was you started getting higher resolution displays, even if they were monochrome. So like the monochrome displays were a little bit higher resolution than the 240 vertical lines that TVs could do interlaced. And so people started getting higher resolution for better text display and stuff like that, even in the DOS days. And then the monitors in the 90s and early 2000s, the LCDs came online, and all of a sudden, like there was very little difference between what you were buying on a TV and what you were buying on a monitor in terms of resolution. The big difference was density and dot pitch, right?
That makes perfect sense. That monitors just went way ahead of TVs in resolution for a few years, and then once TVs caught back up, then it made sense to just reunify all that stuff.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So and once, I mean, it was really like DVI, you could do HD resolutions, but once you had HDMI on the video cards, then all of a sudden the PCs just all supported TV resolutions.
Yes.
For a long time, it took a special piece of hardware to support TV resolutions on a post 386 computer.
Right.
So
weren't there like some early HD TVs that had DVI in?
Yeah, I had two HD TVs that had VGA in even.
Oh wow. Huh.
Yeah. So the VGA in was great because it meant that you could plug in SCARTs with a adapter cable, so you could get all sorts of weird Euro friendly resolutions and stuff like that.
SCART.
Everybody loves SCART.
I just love saying SCART. SCART.
The thing that I don't understand, I guess DisplayPort happened because HDMI wasn't moving fast enough for post HD resolutions.
Oh my God, display.
Yeah.
That's what I bought my multimeter for, was to do continuity testing on some DisplayPort cables.
Oh God, just buy a new DisplayPort cable. Just throw out the ones that you think are suspect.
No. It's not about them being bad. It's a long story, man.
Okay.
Do you want me to get into it?
No, it could be the cold open next week.
Pin 20 in the DisplayPort spec feeds 3.3 volts to adapters. So like dongles, basically. So I've already started. I just have to finish this now.
I love a dongle.
So I literally went and downloaded like the 450 page PDF of the DisplayPort spec from the Visa Foundation and had to find the pinout guide in there.
Why didn't you just? What was the problem?
Your dongle wasn't working. I'll explain that. So they built Pin 20 into the spec to power dongles that need power, so you wouldn't have to plug those dongles into external power, right?
Yeah. So it seems like a smart choice.
It's stuff like analog digital. It's stuff like if you had VGA to DisplayPort, you need power to do that conversion or whatever. So the idea was you get a cable that has pin 20 connected, and then you can power your dongle off of it. The thing is, for straight PC to monitor DisplayPort cables, pin 20 is supposed to be disconnected. Because
you need a special freaking cable?
Yes, you have to. So yes, it's the fucking USB thing all over again. You need a special DisplayPort cable that can power those dongles, because off the shelf regular DisplayPort cables are supposed to have that pin snipped, like not connected. But
why would you?
Anyway, where I'm going with this is that there are now a bunch of no-name DisplayPort cables on Amazon that are full of user reviews saying like, hey, they didn't disconnect pin 20 properly on this cable. And that means that your monitor is potentially feeding 3.3 volt back into your graphics card.
That seems bad.
Like it is a crazy, you can find all these YouTube videos. Like it causes like such crazy problems with your PCs. If that is the case.
Weird crashiness and stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, like I bought one of my DisplayPort cables broke and I bought a new one. And long story short, it's a 15-foot cable. I had to run it all behind my desk. It would have been a huge pain in the ass to return. But as soon as I got all that installation done, then I saw all the stuff about people saying like, hey, this thing's not up to Visa spec. Like it might be feeding juice back into your graphics card. You should be careful. So I was like, all right, I can return this cable and get another one, or I can finally use this as an excuse to buy a multimeter and continuity test that pin myself.
Was it connected?
So when the test probes were too fat to fit in the pin, so it took me a while. I stripped, I've got some old broken Ethernet cable that I saved to strip wire out of for purposes like this. So I stripped some copper wire out of that Ethernet cable and wrapped it around the test probes. That was not enough. It also came without alligator clips though.
Oh, okay.
And then I hit on the solution of raiding my girlfriend's sewing kit and grabbing a couple of needles.
Yeah.
And alligator clipping those, and those were a way to continuity test. And
that's a good call.
Sure enough, the pin 20 is properly disconnected on that cable.
Oh, there you go.
I hope this has not been extremely dull.
Mission accomplished.
Anyway, sorry.
No. I think I'm fascinated by this. I would have just taken the cable out and thrown it in the trash and ordered another one probably.
Well, like I said, it's a 15-foot cable that is run through a bunch of stuff like mounting and like, because I keep everything mounted to the back of the desk, and it would have been a huge pain to like crawl down on my back and pull it all out again.
You haven't tried to return anything from Amazon during the pandemic, because basically they're like, if it's under $50, they're like, no, just keep it. We'll send you a new one.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, if it's going to be a pain for them to pick up, just keep it. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We got it. We're good.
Well, again, though, it would have been a lot of work to run a new cable through there, even if I got a new one. Like that's more what I was trying to avoid. Anyway, let's read another email.
Yeah.
How about this one from Tom, who has a question about flash memory? We've seen pretty good progress in the capacity of SSDs or solid state storage in general in recent years, but I'd like to know what is constraining that progress currently. With CPUs, we hear a lot about how we're reaching the limits of how small you can make a transistor for physics reasons, but is the same thing true for SSDs? Also, how come we can make a 256 gig micro SD card that is pretty cheap, but a PC SSD that is orders of magnitude larger in terms of physical volume can't be bigger than a few terabytes? Does that come down to read-write speed? I think my question boils down to this. What are the current and future bottlenecks constraining progress on solid-state storage?
So this is an interesting one. I had to do some reading about this because I hadn't really thought about this way, but there is a when a 256 gig SSD card costs like $20 or $30 now, why are we not also seeing, commensurately inexpensive SSDs?
Right.
And there's multiple parts to it. One is that the controllers on SSDs like they both use the same kind of NAND flash, right? NAND flash is basically, think of it like a bucket. It's a bucket that you can pour data into. But the controllers on SD cards and the controllers on SSDs are wildly different. The controllers on SSDs are a lot faster. They're a lot more complicated. They're much, much bigger chips. Not like in that they do take up more space on the board than an SD card controller would take, but they're also much more complicated, much more capable. So they run faster. They're able to deal with more data at any given moment. And they can do things like, wear level the NAND flash, because the NAND has a finite lifespan, and like an SD card, at least your base level, entry level SD cards don't necessarily care about wear leveling, because they assume you're going to write each cell, 1,000 times if it's going into a camera or something like that.
Yes, everyone seems to treat SD cards, and in fact, SD cards seem to treat themselves as disposable.
Yeah,
like they just die all the time, right? Like they're not like, that's why you see anybody that's running anything serious on a Raspberry Pi is like, hey, don't run this off an SD card. Plug an actual drive into this thing.
Oh, hold on. I was typing something, so I had to mute myself. So one of the things that's interesting is that there are actually different ratings for SD cards in terms of writing, all the way up to the point that there are app-rated SD cards.
Really?
So like you're supposed to put app-rated SD cards in things that are going to have a lot of reads and a lot of rewrites. So think about like your Switch SD card is maybe an app-rated one. If you're going to put one in a Pi-hole or a Home Assistant box or something like that, that's going to have some logs written to it. Yeah. Probably use one of the app-rated ones. And those are the ones, those little symbols on the front of the SD card. That's yeah.
I was going to say that is a whole rabbit hole of the little symbols on SD cards, like the A1, and it's got like a ring around it, and this one is U, whatever. Like those ratings have a lot of meanings.
That's it. The A1 is the thing you want for the app rating.
Yes.
However, even between like an app-rated SD card and a cheap SSD, you're going to see a difference in the amount of read-write, both the read and write performance and the number of times it can rewrite, and like how much track the device is keeping track of which cells are being written to a lot and which ones aren't. The other thing is the density and price of storage. So a lot of the reason we don't see larger than 1 terabyte SSDs at this point is that people are not willing to pay the 500, people are looking for SSDs in the $100 to $200 price range, not the $250 to $500 price range. So the cost per gigabyte remains about the same across all of those, but it's not cheaper. There's not an economy of scale there. It's not like you're getting more flash for the same amount of money if you buy it in larger quantities. The chips are capping out at a certain size, and they're not. In order to get a bigger SSD, you have to put more chips on. Now, part of that is that there were process size limitations. We were reaching the end of what we could do at a specific process size. Intel and Micron launched this 3D XPoint stuff a few years ago, which is basically like stacked NAND flash. That's an oversimplification. If you look at like the Optane SSDs that Intel was selling for a while,
that's the high-end stuff.
Well, it's also really inexpensive for the price. Like the price per gigabyte was really low, so you could get like on sale. Like you would see those Optane SSDs on sale for $200 for a 2 terabyte SSD fairly regularly. And there's some downsides in like the write cycles and stuff like that, but for normal consumer use, they're probably fine. Like you might not want to necessarily put those in a server. And like, I don't know what happened. I haven't dug into this a lot, but Intel has dumped that business off. Intel and Micron are selling that business to a third party. They're getting rid of the fabs that make those. So either the margins haven't been there, or something's not great about that business, and they want out. Maybe they're just focusing on CPUs instead. I don't know. The other thing that happens in SSDs that definitely doesn't happen in SD cards is there's cache. So there's large amounts of RAM that let you transfer way, way faster than you can actually write to the flash memory. And that those large, sometimes 64 gig caches can make a big difference. 64 meg caches can make a big difference in the performance of the SSD. So
yes, for sure. A lot of the buyers guides you see out there straight up say, don't buy an SSD without a DRAM cache.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't, especially if you're talking about a big one. I wouldn't at this point.
Or for something high performance at least.
Yeah, and then there's other stuff too. There's weird there's memory out there that has like performance of RAM, closer to the performance of RAM. So like you think about the speed of access. So RAM is really, really fast. Flash is an order of magnitude slower. Hard drives are a couple of orders of magnitude slower than flash. And there are some novel forms of RAM that show up in enterprise SSDs that are the speed of RAM, but are non-volatile like flashes. And that stuff, like at some point that'll probably trickle down to consumer markets, but who knows?
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Give me bigger drives. All right. Next email. Excuse me. Alex in New Jersey writes in about Brad and his multiple browsers. On the last episode, Brad mentioned he uses multiple web browsers to log into different accounts so they don't intermingle. However, did you know there's a Firefox add-on that can create separate buckets with their own cookie profiles so you can easily manage multiple identities? It's called multi-account containers. And I found that it makes managing work and personal accounts real easy and also prevents them from crashing together. I had not heard of.
It's turned on by default when you install Firefox now. The containers.
Oh, that's not a third-party add-on that's built in. It's
a Firefox. It has a little Firefox logo. It is made by Firefox.
Yeah,
is my understanding.
Yeah, so I was not familiar with that particular feature. That sounds really useful. And some other people had also written in about just saying like, hey, use multiple profiles in Chrome or Edge to juggle that stuff.
I don't know that multiple profiles in Chrome still exist. I think that went away a few years ago.
I'm pretty sure it does.
Maybe it does. It's just buried.
Maybe. I've never had more than one profile. Maybe you can't add a second. I thought you still could.
Well, okay, so the container that's on by default is the Facebook container in Firefox.
Oh, yeah, I have heard of that.
And it just buckets all the Facebook cookies into one profile. So anytime that loads, it just goes into a bit bucket where they can't track you across multiple sites.
Yes.
But yeah, the rest of it, I don't know.
The biggest reason I like multiple browsers is that at the OS level, at the OS user interface level, they are as abstracted as they can be. You know what I mean? Like they are two completely different icons on the taskbar. Like when I'm alt tabbing, like it's just the most separate I can keep those things. It's like I know that Edge is only open for work stuff, and when I need to do work stuff, I can just like thoughtlessly tab over to Edge and not think about like which Chrome window am I needing to get to right now. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's more about you not making a mistake, not the software making a mistake.
It's more just like ease of like navigating. You know, it's like I don't have to think about like if I've got 8 Chrome windows open, I don't want to have to figure out which one is the one that has my email in it. It's just like
that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
But these other tips do sound like a good way to manage that stuff.
The Firefox containers are really nice. I keep my my work stuff in one container and the other stuff in a separate container, and it works well.
That sounds smart.
And it does it per tab, so it like knows that this tab should always be a like this site is always a work site, and this site is always a normal container.
Sure. Question from Charlie from Portland. I have a simple question, which I bet will have a complicated answer. Why don't video games take better advantage of modern multi-core CPUs?
Ooh.
This is definitely, I am not super qualified to discuss this. One thing I have heard fairly steadily is that it's not the easiest thing to parallelize the types of like logic and simulation that games need to do. Is that accurate in your understanding?
So there's a technical answer and there's like an economics answer for this, right?
Okay.
The economics answer is easier, and it's that the large platforms that people build games for and people buy games on don't have enough cores, have more cores than it makes sense. So like we see games that hit 3-4 CPUs now, right? Pretty reliably. Like Unreal Engine stuff, he'll hit 4 CPUs, 4 cores. Stuff like Control hit multiple cores pretty hard. But we're not going to see stuff that goes beyond that until the next gen consoles that actually have a buttload of cores kind of become mainstream. Because
I was surprised that didn't go up this generation, because the PS4 and Xbox One were, I think, technically 8 cores, although I think I want to say each one shipped with like 1 core disabled or something like that. So
I think
like 7.
the Xbox, multiples in some cases, right?
And I think
OS ran on some stuff.
Yeah, totally. I think like in both cases, like one was reserved for operating system stuff, but like these new ones are still only 8 cores. I was kind of expecting that to go up, but whatever. They need to build these at scale. Like they can't be shooting for the moon on that stuff.
I was going to say the other thing is the way games work is usually there's one loop, right? So each frame represents one cycle on a loop. and that loop does all of the things in the games. The AI lives in that loop. The sound lives in that loop. The networking stuff lives in that loop. The rendering lives in that loop. The anything scripted, anything music, all of that stuff runs inside that one loop. So while you can break some of that stuff out, like sound is something that's pretty easy to break out because you can maintain a separate sound model and keep that synchronized fairly easily. Anything that you break out and run on a separate CPU, like you can't run the different parts of those. There's only some stuff that you can run in that loop on different parts of the CPU. And this is, just to be clear, I apologize in advance for people who know how this stuff works better than I do. This is an oversimplification, and I acknowledge that, but bear with me. So you have the loop, everything's running. There are some parts of the loop that you can pull data out of at key points, dump it off to another thread on a different CPU, and then pull it back in the microseconds between when you send it, when the calculation's done, and bring it back. So sound is a good example of that, right? Like if I'm playing PUBG and somebody shoots a quarter of a mile away from me, then the game can say, okay, here's a point of data. I need to render a sound here, and I need to do all the HRTF stuff and all of the occlusion and all of the weird, the attenuation and all the stuff that happens to that sound. And then I need to send back, here's exactly what you play into the main loop, right? And it's easy to keep that stuff in sync. Physics is another example, something that's pretty easy to keep in sync. And if it's not core to the game, like if getting out of sync doesn't break the game, like having a ragdoll that doesn't render exactly the same on everybody's multiplayer computers, you can kind of just hope that it works itself out and everybody's computer is going to see something a little bit different, right? Network code is one of those things that you can't do that with, because if the network code gets out of sync, then you lose connection to the server, and the server's like, hey man, you're not right, go away, you're cheating, and you get kicked off the server. So the problem is a lot of the stuff that you do in a normal game loop has to happen like sequentially
and
yeah. So that's why you end up with situations where like one core on a you want to have one core that's running really fast, and then the other ones can run slowly and stuff like that. And I think that's stuff that the new consoles do. I haven't looked at the hardware specs of that too closely.
I assume so. I mean, that's what boost mode on at least the Ryzen's. I assume Intel has an equivalent. That's what that's for, right? Is like that if you're basically only on one core or mostly on one core, that's when it spikes the frequency because
you can turn the others down and generate less heat with them and use more of your TDP overhead on those. So
right. That stuff is fascinating. What's like one of my holy grail guest things is to get like a working games programmer in here to talk about.
Well, it's one of the reasons I was gonna say it's one of the reasons a game like Hitman is really interesting, because like they're doing things like in most games, as soon as your characters fall off screen, then they stop running the AI for the off screen characters because it's just wasted cycles. But with Hitman, because of the clockwork nature of those worlds and because the characters need to stay in sync across the whole world, they have to keep running that stuff constantly. And you end up with I have to imagine they're using multi-threaded performance much better than everybody else to run all the different AI threads and stuff like that. Anyway.
Yep. All right. Joe from New York. It's a long email. I'm going to cherry pick a few of these here. He built a new PC over the weekend.
Okay.
I believe this email is in response to our authoritative ranking of the best developments.
Definitive.
Yes.
One true ranking.
The one and only ranking of the best things about building modern PCs.
I'm glad we took over that so the internet doesn't have to worry about that anymore.
That's right. Yep, that's settled.
Yep.
I built a new PC over the weekend. Here are the things I hated. I'll pull. There's quite a few of these here. I'll pull a few. The modular power supply.
He hates a lot of stuff.
Is the first one. I don't necessarily hate modular power supplies, but I prefer semi-modular power supplies. With semi-modular, he's kind of got a point here to some degree. With semi-modular, the things you absolutely definitely need plugged into your power supply, like the 24-pin ATX and 8-pin CPU, are hardwired, and everything else is modular. I find modular cables to be annoyingly stiff compared to the hardwired versions. He's not wrong about that.
You don't loosen up your cables before you put them in? I work them for a little bit. I put them on
do you sit on them for a while? You like incubate them like a mother hen? Just kind of
shimmy sham them.
It'll warm up your cables a little bit.
This is a fair criticism. I think the 24 pin should probably be wired.
Yeah.
If you're doing a fancy wiring job, it's nice to be able to disconnect both ends, but it's unnecessary.
Yeah. And depending on the placement, it can be really annoying. Like I have to pull my 24 pin every time I want to get to any of the other connectors on that thing because of the way the shroud is oriented. It's just it's a pain in the ass.
Well, we've established that shrouds are bad.
Shrouds are I'm skipping ahead at the very end of this email. P.S. Power supply shroud, pretty cool. That's what he said. I can't agree with that. Here's a question. We're kind of getting a jump on spring cleaning around here.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of going through some old computer parts trying to decide what to get rid of and keep.
Yeah.
I found my old mid 2000s DFI board. Do you remember the DFI LAN party?
No. What's a DFI LAN party?
DFI was kind of like the overclockers board at that time. I don't know where they came from. This sounds crazy. I have zero way to validate this. I want to say there was some talk at some point that some 8-bit engineers went to DFI.
I can see that. I mean,
is that ringing any bells?
Bounced around a lot. I remember DFI, the company, but is it a motherboard?
They're still, yeah, it's a motherboard. They're still around, but they only make like industrial motherboards and stuff, embedded stuff these days. Like they got out of gaming. Anyway, whatever. I'm digressing. I know some people love the DFI LAN party series. They were extremely neon. Like all the accents on the board are like neon yellow and orange.
Yeah, I remember this.
Anyway, whatever. I'm rambling here, but so I want to keep that thing as like a good kind of older computer that I might want to put like XP on at some point for
put it in a shadow box and put up on the wall, dude.
Or that, Anyway, I've got a couple power supplies with it. Would you say power supplies age sitting in a box? I know they age as you use them.
If the capacitors haven't cracked, there's a period of time when the capacitors were suspect on every fucking piece of electronics ever made.
Right. I forgot about
early
that.
2000 stuff is like, we've all had the Xbox One, original Xbox we had to pop the caps off of.
Dude, that's another thing in my spring cleaning is I've got my old Xbox out. I'm going to finally take it apart and see if the acid leaked.
With mine too.
See if it leaked all over the motherboard.
I think you'll plug it in and know.
Yeah, so I should test it, but I mean the bigger thing is like, should I keep the old power supply assuming it does work, or can you still get? Because I want to say that thing it might have been a 20 pin at that time.
The 20 pin and 24 pin are the same connector. No, the 24 pin usually has a breakaway on it, so you just pop it off.
Okay, I guess that's maybe the more direct way to ask this question is like, if I just keep that motherboard, could I always just get a new power supply down the line that'll work with it?
At least as of right now, I don't imagine they're going to change the ATX connector unless they just add more ports to it.
Okay, because it is a different configuration than what my current board uses. It's not an 8-pin CPU and stuff like that.
It's a 4-pin CPU, probably.
I think it's 4. That's right. Okay, so
all the 8-pin is 2 of those 4 pins.
Okay, so it sounds like there is backwards compatibility.
And the 24 pin is a 20 pin plus 4 additional pins.
Okay, that's encouraging.
You just have to use the right side, or else you'll catch it on fire. Probably.
Oh, good. Well, hopefully it's keyed.
Probably keyed. It should be keyed. Who knows?
Maybe I'll get rid of that old power supply. I don't know. Look, all right, another thing.
What you should do with the old power supply is do what people do with their old shoes. They're not going to wear anymore. Just hook 2 of them together and then throw it up over the power lines and watch what happens.
No, you don't want to know what that kind of attention that might bring. That's all right. Another thing he hated when he built his PC: lighting. My case has RGB. My RAM has RGB. My all-in-one pump has RGB. My motherboard has RGB. My video card has LED lights. That's too much lighting.
Wow.
If I could only turn off some of the lighting, it would be fine, but the software ASUS provides doesn't allow me to adjust different component light settings separately. It's all or nothing, so it all stays off. I can kind of see it.
I mean, look, okay, Grandpa, just just because you don't understand the ground effects culture that we live in today.
I feel like it's very on brand for me to be kind of like nodding my head along with this email.
Well, so the RAM and the all-in-one pump are probably different vendors, so you probably can turn those. Like on mine, those are Corsair, and you can turn those off independently.
Right.
You might just not have the right software installed to turn off the individual components.
I think RAM might be one step too far for me.
Oh, the RAM is really cool. It glows. It makes like it looks like Knight Rider. You can make it go womp 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 womp, or Cylon, whichever.
Like,
pick your theme.
For some reason, it feels like you shouldn't be asking for extra current out of those sockets or the slots for lights. You should just be focusing on, because RAM really should be stable. And
it's fine. The lights let you know it's working right. If the lights don't come on, that means something's broken.
Of course. Another thing he hated: SSD mounts on the back of the case. SSD mounts on the backside of the case is a great idea, but not when the mount points are behind the motherboard. I'm a little confused.
I don't understand, actually.
Yeah, I don't understand this one either.
Take the other side of the case off usually to access those, and it's really easy.
That's because mine are exactly like that. They mount behind the motherboard, but you're right. You just take the other panel off. But he continues, if I want to add or replace an SSD on the back of the case, I would have to remove the motherboard. Which is why all my SSDs are in a pile at the bottom of my case. And he provided a picture. He provided a picture of his new build, and sure enough,
pretty good. Yeah, they're all there.
The SSDs are literally just piled at the bottom of the case, which I guess I could never follow you, but I could respect it.
Brad, I have 2 SSDs just dangling from the power connectors.
You know, I had that for a while, but I don't know. I tried to like stick them between some stuff so they were at least kind of secured.
He zip tied one in there, which I appreciate.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
One more item I will pull off of this list. USB 3 connectors. F these things.
Oh, God. Yeah. 100% this. I can go down this hole. And like the first version of the USB 3 connector is terrible.
Yes.
And somehow with the second version, they made it worse.
I didn't know there was a second version. I guess we've talked about, I think we talked about it a week or two ago. I'm still using a pretty old board. So I guess I've got the old USB 3 connector. Like, what's worse? I didn't know there wasn't.
Yeah. The first one had just normal pins, and it was just, they were really narrow, kind of fine pins.
And very fragile feeling.
Well, it just fell off was the problem with it. Like if you jostled your case, it could come loose. The second version is like a snap-in thing. It's like a center post.
Okay.
It's way worse. It sucks.
Mine snap in, and they're terrible.
Yeah.
If there's like any tension at all on that cable, which like mine is short and stiff, it feels like it's just going to break that thing off.
Yep.
I'm amazed it still works. Out. Yeah.
All of a sudden your front panel connectors don't work. And front panel connectors have a dirty signal anyway. So it's just a shit show all the way around.
That's right. Anyway, sounds like he completed a successful build. So, actually, there's one more thing at the end that I do want to read because I'm kind of curious myself. Also, my motherboard came with a sticker to put on the CMOS battery. Why would I want this?
I don't know why the sticker is there. He asked why there's a CMOS battery too.
That's the thing I was really getting to. Is also why is there still a CMOS battery? The clock.
Because of the clock, yeah. The real-time clock needs a CMOS battery so that when you unplug your PC, it still can keep going and doesn't lose the time. I assume that you put the sticker on and it has the date. You put the date that you put the battery in, maybe?
Sure, yeah.
But I think I've only ever had, in the 25 years I've been building computers, I've only had one CMOS battery actually run down.
Same for me, I think. How long do you think they typically last?
5 to 10 years is my understanding. Okay. Yeah. So like my first home server that was a BSD machine, I ran for 6 years and I had to replace the CMOS battery once, but that was it.
Sure.
That's the only one I've ever had a problem with. So,
but like any PC should boot normally without a battery. It just won't keep the time. Is that right?
It should boot fine. Yeah.
It should be fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see this?
I think you might lose settings. I think you might lose BIOS settings when you reboot.
Oh, interesting. Sure.
Because like when you disconnect from power, rather. So like if you turn off your power supply at the switch on the back, you'll lose your CMOS settings.
Huh.
If the battery's dead.
I guess I'm surprised that's not being stored in some non-volatile form at this point. But
well, the CMOS stands for
complementary metal oxide semiconductor.
Yeah, that's it. And it requires power to store data. There's no flash in that. So
I used to be kind of into memorizing computer acronyms.
No, you don't say.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. The thing I was going to ask, did you see the FUD? Is it okay to pronounce FUD?
You mean food?
No, FUD.
Yeah, fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Yes, that one.
Food.
Anyway.
It's fun. It's fun.
Anyway,
it's fun. It's fun. Okay. I apologize for starting this. Go on.
Anyway, there was this thing floating around about PS3s and PS4s in the kind of console modding community over the past week.
No, I missed that.
So it started because there's this rumor that Sony is shutting down the PlayStation Store for the PS3, PSP, and Vita. Did you see that?
I saw that, yes.
So that's happening. And then when a bunch of modders saw that, they were like, fuck this shit, because the way the kernel works on the PS3 and PS4, once the CMOS battery dies on those things, like you can replace the battery, but it won't let you relicense all your content until you then phone home to their servers again.
Oh, shit.
You essentially, like, it resets whatever licensing check has taken place that, validates your ability to use all the stuff you bought.
Well, so then they like, if they're going to turn off the store, they're just going to turn off purchases and they're not going to turn off the validation, right?
That's probably the case. But immediately everybody starts panicking, like, because Nintendo disabled even like downloads on the Wii store after they got rid of that. Like, there is precedent for more than just purchases being taken away. So then everybody started panicking. Like if they ever take those like validation servers offline, then you suddenly can't play all the stuff you bought once that battery dies.
So, okay. So on the Wii, I'm not making an excuse for Nintendo because that is unfortunate, but like nobody bought games. You couldn't really buy games for download on the Wii.
That's definitely not a defense.
Yeah, no, but like, I mean, I guess you bought Virtual Console stuff for the Wii.
Yeah, you remember the Wii Shop? That music is classic.
Dun, dun, yeah, but what did you buy on the Wii Shop? I don't think I bought anything digital on the Wii.
There was some stuff. There are actually a few exclusive games. There's like some version of Castlevania that only came out on the Wii Shop. It's weird.
Huh.
There is some stuff.
Yeah, that sucks then. They shouldn't do that. Fuck them.
So it sucks.
Go buy games digitally, buy discs maybe. I don't know.
Totally. Like when this stuff started going around, I was like, oh man, these zealots about physical media maybe had a point.
Look, if there's anything that I've learned over the last 20 years, it's that the people who seem like cranks who yell about DRM and digital rights are almost always right, even though in the short term they seem like cranks.
That's right. Just remember
Corey
that.
Doctorow was right. I'm sorry, Corey.
Next time I get up on a soapbox about something, just remember that.
I'm still going to call you a crank, just for the record.
Right. Okay, that's how I know I'm right.
Yeah. If I'm calling you a crank, you're 100% right.
That's right. Okay. Last email. It's from Jeff. He didn't quite say it in here, but I think he's calling back to when your water main problem happened that we talked about a while back.
Yeah.
You had to get the concrete saw out there or whatever it was.
I didn't, but the neighbors did at 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. Something that was great morning, let me tell you.
Yes. I believe he's writing in response to that. Bless you. Okay. My father has worked for the local water municipality for my entire life. He would take, quote, call every 8 weeks, which back in the 80s required a pager, and later a first-generation cell phone that was connected to a car battery-sized pack. He used to have to drive down and, quote, check the water when he was on call every few hours and make sure all the reservoirs were working correctly and had proper water volume. He would have to go out and repair water main breaks at any hour of the day and at any temperature. We live in Utah. Many years ago, there was a small plane crash that happened over a neighborhood in our town, which is Kearns, Utah. It just so happens that they had a line break directly under the crash and debris field that night. My father had to work around FAA inspection crews and plane and body parts.
Yeah.
And working for the water department, my father walked something like 15 miles every Monday to read meters before they switched to electronic meters. This is my favorite part of this email by far. Things have changed drastically over the years, but they used to quite frequently find jewelry when they would do their sewer cleaning work. Every diamond in my mother's wedding ring was found in the sewer.
Aw.
That's incredible. Like, what are you going to do? Like, there is
you can't find out who it belongs to.
There's zero way to get that diamond back to its original owner. That's just that's a sewer diamond right there.
Shitty situation.
Yeah. Oh boy. That's good stuff. Interesting. He didn't talk about any of the other stuff they might have found down there.
So yeah, hopefully this was pre-Fatbergs. Do you know about the Fatbergs?
No, but I can infer from the name that I don't want to know.
So
I mean, I think you've enough
flushable wipes plus normal sewer debris. It's gross. Plus garbage disposals, I think, equals giant blockages that are like, 10 foot around clumps of wipes and fat and crap. Yeah, it's gross. I used to love when I was a kid going on like outings work outings with my father. We would drive up to the coal fields in West Virginia and Southwest Virginia, and visit customers of his. And I would like hang out in the car and read a book or something while he was in talking to customers. And then we'd go have adventures and like drive up and look at coal mines and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. His talking about the bag phone is funny because we had one of those. Dad was selling real estate then. He had bought one so he could talk, so people could call him and be like, "Hey, I want to go check out this farm, wherever he was." And he'd go pick him up and they'd go out for a ride. But before he got the bag phone, he had they shared time on a radio, like a private band radio that was up. That the antenna was mounted on the top of the mountain, 10 miles away, that had line of sight to the entire valley, basically. And the receivers were in the office and like our kitchen at home. So like the people at the office could radio into him and it was shared. So it was like they paid for the antenna, like these 10 people, 10 other realtors and auctioneers and stuff, and they all split time on it. Huh. So it was there available to any of them privately, but it was just like a private open band radio.
Wow.
And they had the repeater on the mountain. And like we had a thing at home where you could couple the phone to it. Like you could hook a phone up to what looked like an audio coupler for a modem. And my mom would say, hey, you got a call. Are you available? And you'd be like, yeah, over. And then she'd put the phone in the thing and you'd hear them talking to each other. Wow. And then when it was time to hang up, she'd just take the phone off and hang it up. And
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it was weird.
That's
all the things that cell phones have replaced.
Sure. Yeah, that's a long list.
I wonder, like, I can't imagine that was like a vital business thing for him. I think he was just a nerd and liked that kind of stuff. I'll have to ask him.
Sure, I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know my dad. He's
plenty of other realtors probably got by without that. So yeah, was probably
I'm sure
that was for funsies, but
Well, I mean, it was a big area, and it wasn't like, and they were doing mostly like farm stuff. So who knows? Maybe it was important. I don't know. I mean, I'll find out. But
as somebody who spends way too much time looking at and thinking about home server stuff that is probably not strictly necessary, I get it. It's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I am kind of shocked to read that he had to go like physically check the water I would think even in what did he say, the 80s? Yeah. I would think even in the 80s, they must have had some remote way to track the water volume and stuff like that. But he's saying that he had to like physically go to the reservoirs like every few hours. Like that sounds like a lot.
Well, no, you went to the
He used to have to drive down and check the water when he was on call every few hours and make sure the reservoirs were working correctly and had proper water volume.
That seems right.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I don't know that they like on a small town thing. I don't know. I feel
sure.
Like I always felt like things were more like efficient and controlled than they probably were. like knowing the people who worked in that space in the 80s was probably just like Bob from the water department just kind of eyeballing, hey, yeah, this looks fine. Dude, it's still going.
I mean, like, holy shit. I feel like the history of every complex system that is in the rearview mirror is that it was like much more ramshackle than you think. Like right up to like the automated like nuclear defense systems and stuff like that. Like you read about the number of times that nuclear war almost happened based on some like technical screw up.
Well, honestly, if you read about the power failure in Texas last month, like that is ramshackle as hell.
Yeah,
like it's everything is still just on the edge of failing. It seems like
the postmortems on all that stuff are just terrifying to think about. Like how much of the world seems to just be held together with like Scotch tape and bubble gum.
Yep. I guess that'll do it for us this week, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a grip of emails. Thanks to everybody who wrote in.
Yeah, thank you. If you have a question for us, the email is techpod@content.town. We do questions the last episode of every month. So you can find that out. And now is the time of the show when we talk about the Patreon.
Yeah.
I have to clear my throat again. I got April allergies coming on at the end of March.
God. So. Oh, it's starting. The eyes are so itchy. Anyway, put on your business voice.
But yeah, if you want to gain access to the Fabulous Tech Pod Discord and the community that lies wherein, now is the time to do it because we're talking about increasing pricing on the restructuring the Patreon, and anybody who gets in now will be grandfathered in for as long as you want to stay on that tier.
That's right. I think restructuring sounds better than increasing.
Yeah, I mean, look, realistically, we want to add some new stuff in, and we need to figure out ways to structure the payments so that they're commensurate with the value of the new things. So, sure. And I think we didn't anticipate how awesome the Discord was going to be when we initially set this up a year and a half ago.
It's a lot. I real fast, something I meant to mention earlier when we were talking about flash storage, a little tip I picked up from our Discord. If you're running anything critical on Raspberry Pis like Pi-hole, or I've got my NUT server and et cetera, log to RAM. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No,
it's just you can. I think most package managers for different distros have it, depending on what you're running on there. All it is, it just mounts the log directory to a temp file system in RAM, to a RAM drive kind of situation.
Do you have to do anything to set it up, or just install it like from your package manager?
It's basically just a script. So you do have to. There's a little bit of configuration. It's pretty easy. Like it's on GitHub. You can find it. It's not hard to. They've got pretty clear instructions.
That sounds good.
Set it up. There are a couple snags, but that writing to the SD card is what kills it the fastest. So keeping those logs from being written to the card will hopefully prolong the life of the card.
It's like the number of writes to, not the
Not the
like
size.
It's the number of writes, not the right size. Yeah, is my understanding.
Interesting.
So like lots of small writes are way worse than one big write every day.
Well, that is logging, right? It's just nonstop, like a line or two of text.
Yeah. I usually just turn off logging on my SD card things too. Anyway. Yeah, the email address is techpod@content.town. The Patreon, you can get access to the Discord for $2 a month right now. There are 15 or 1,600 other beautiful nerds in there that are talking about all of the things that we talk about every week and more. Yeah. I think we're going to do a patron spotlight for our patron episode this month.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about some soldering, perhaps soldering techniques and things like that.
Yes, the most infernal of topics.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's stuff that I learned when I was doing a kind of complicated project earlier this year. But we have some real experts in there, and we're going to tap into their expertise and put them on the spot. As always, on the last episode of the month, we want to thank both our executive producer and associate producer level patrons, starting with the executive producers, Jacob Chappell, James Kamek, and the Bunny Fiend, and our associate producers, Andre Burke, Arthur Geese, Ben Gulmy, Brian Rabe, I should know this, Cedric Katzenmacher, Dan Brockman, Dave Yulian, Graham Banks, Jad Rita, Jorge Pereira, Sean Talon, Terry Cox, and Thomas Shea. Thank you all so much for your support. We appreciate it. And everyone who supports the show.
Absolutely.
Please let us know how we're doing. Send an email to techbot@content.town. We should do another survey. We haven't done one in more than a year, and it was very informative last time. So I would like to know how people think we're doing, whether they find the Discord valuable, whether they're liking the patron episodes, whether they like the normal show. I assume if you're listening, you probably like the normal show. But
when you said that, the image that leapt to mind immediately was the old bumper stickers, the How's My Driving? Remember?
No, that's not no. We want people to tell us how they like the show. We don't want them to call 1-800-EAT, whatever. But yeah, that's it.
No, you're right. No, we absolutely value all feedback.
Yes,
it's good.
Good, bad, or indifferent. Yeah, it's all good. It's all useful.
For sure.
So I guess we'll be back next week with another episode of the show, and look for that patron episode this weekend or early next week. Bye, everybody.